Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Into the Vault, the show where we reach back into the Disney vault, pull out a movie, and find out if it was a hidden treasure, or if it was locked away for our own good. I'm your host, Garrison MacCraw, and I am here by myself today because social distancing guidelines mean people can't be within 6 feet of me, and frankly the microphone doesn't pick up that far. No, but as we all know, there's some stuff going on in the world, so the episodes coming up might be a little different. I and a guest you've heard before, Jade McGrail, who is also my girlfriend, we decided to go stay with her family up in North Carolina, so we're away from our normal studio. Obviously, we're not going to be getting different guests in all the time. I don't have my regular microphone. I'm using my little travel mic, so it'll be different, it'll be fun. And if I can ever pull Jaden away from Animal Crossing, maybe we'll even get a guest for one of these. So we'll find out. So we're doing a little mini-sode today. We are watching the Sleepy Hollow portion of The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. So it came out in 1949. Now a little backstory, a little history on this one. It was a little strange timing because World War II was happening, so Disney wasn't making the big grand movies they were used to because they had to make all these little package films. This is all they could really do at the time. Like Three Caballeros, Melody Time, Fun and Fancy Free, Winnie the Pooh, and this little beauty. That was a combination of The Wind in the Willows, so Mr. Toad, and this one, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Now, I've never actually seen The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Disney one, but I remember watching a lot of Disney sing-alongs, and like he would pop up in those every once in a while, and he would pop up in House of Mouse. So I've always growing up been a fan of the character. And of course there's other things you can see him in at Disney World that I'll get into later that I always thought was really cool. But yeah, I don't know too much about this. I know we have our main character, Ichabod Crane, and I believe in his town, there was stories of this ghostly figure, the Headless Horseman. I know there gets to be this chase, confrontation between the Horseman and Ichabod, but I don't know too much else beyond that. So I think all I have to do now is just watch it and see what happens in this thing. Alright, I'm back. I've just finished watching The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and I'm just gonna get right into the plot here. So we open up with Ichabod Crane, a lanky little dandy guy who's just arrived at Sleepy Hollow. He's just moved in, and they had the song going on. The whole thing is narrated by Bing Crosby, and they have the song going on about how weird looking he is, and it's you'd think he's a scarecrow walking around out there with his giant shovelly feet and super long limbs, and he's real tall, and he's got a giant nose, and his face is always in a book. The entire opening song almost plays out like Beauty and the Beast, like the Belle song, where he's just walking through the village with, looking in a book, and all these people staring at him who's that? And they're like, it's Ichabod Crane. But for some reason, every woman in the village has fallen in love with him, even though the entire song was about how weird he is. Now there's this man in the village, Brom Bones, who's the town's roguish, look at me, I can open a beer keg with my bare hands, pour it for all my friends, and then I'm feeding it to animals. They'll also have some beer, because I'm a cool guy who's doing cool things. And Brom is not too happy that he, a cool guy who does cool things, is being bested by this scarecrowy man that just had a whole song about how weird looking he is. Ichabod is getting invited over to all these women's houses for food. It seems like his ultimate goal is just to get fed by as many people as possible. In fact, he's a school teacher, and there's a scene where he was going to punish a child for misbehaving in class, but then noticed how well his school lunch was packed. So he decided to just go over to his mom's house instead and eat a nice meal. So yeah, Brom is not too pleased with Mr. Ichabod. There's another figure in this town, Katrina. She's this sort of the prettiest daughter of a rich man in the town. Ichabod immediately falls in love with her and starts trying to pursue her, and Brom is not having any of it. he is not happy with this setup and situation. And somehow, this weird lanky man who's won over everyone in the village, by some shock and surprise, also starts winning over Katrina. So Brom keeps trying to do things to mess with him. Really, this whole movie, so far, is like a weird romantic comedy. There's nothing spooky. For most of the film, it's just these two guys like trying to outwit each other so that like one tries to block a door so they can't get in when Katrina's there, and the other one's like, oh, I'll just open the smaller door and walk underneath them, and like almost Tom and Jerry, like not at all what you'd expect from The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Just these two sad men fighting over some girl. And I know we're supposed to be rooting for Ichabod in this. He is the lead, but he has been shown to really only want Katrina for her money. Like, he has a whole daydream about her father dying and him inheriting all her dad's wealth. So, I don't know. I'm personally rooting for Brom on this one because he seems to really like Katrina for who she is. Or maybe he doesn't. Who's to say? Maybe he has his own daydreams that we're not privy to. So we end up at this dance, this town dance. You know the town dance. How every once in a while we all of us just get together with the people in our town and just do a dance. Yeah, it's one of those. So Brom and Ichabod still are doing this Tom and Jerry routine, fighting over Katrina, where like Brom will take like a short, stout woman, start dancing with her and try to pawn her off to Ichabod. And Ichabod's trying to dance with Katrina, and they're trying to outwit each other the whole time. At some point during the dance, Brom notices Ichabod knocking over a salt shaker and throwing salt over his shoulder very nervously. So he's like, oh, this guy's super superstitious. So I'm going to spook him, and start singing a song about the Headless Horseman, which is this ghost. He lost his head in a horrendous cannonball incident, the incident called the Revolutionary War. So once a year, he tries to find himself a new head. And he carries a pumpkin for a head. Also, I don't know why. How does he carve that out? Like, I know he has a sword, but if you don't have a face, how can you... Like, did he pick up a jack-o'-lantern? Like, was he just looking for any round thing and it happened to already have a face? Or did the Headless Horseman carve this out? These are the questions I ask myself at night. Who made the face for the Headless Horseman? Pumpkin. So Ichabod, now scared of this tale, starts riding back and has a few, like, he hears a noise, but it's not anything, or a tree looks spooky. Very much just that scene in Snow White where she's running through the forest. But right when he thinks everything's safe, the Headless Horseman appears. This made-up tale by Brom. I guess Ichabod got very unlucky, and this random tale that was used to scare him turned out to be 100% true, and now he's being chased around. So we get to the Headless Horseman segment of the thing, which is animated very well. The Headless Horseman is scary. The rest of it's very a slapstick, humorous chase scene of Ichabod, like, riding his horse, and the horse is going backwards, and now Ichabod's hitting a tree and spin around. But the horseman itself is very scary looking. It is to be noted that the Headless Horseman's horse looks a lot like Brom's horse, and the sword kind of looks like Brom's, like a sword he had when he was telling the story. So it's kind of implied maybe Brom is the one who is this Headless Horseman. But there was a moment where Ichabod looked down the Headless Horseman's neck and got even more scared. Where if I looked down the Headless Horseman's neck and saw, like, my rival's head, I would be a little less scared. Oh, it's just some guy I know trying to scare me. But I wouldn't look down, see someone I know, and get more scared. So, like, they very much imply that he looked down and saw nothing else in there. And yet, the fright continues. So Ichabod gets to the bridge finally, where the legend says you'll be safe after you cross the bridge. But then the Headless Horseman cheats and throws his pumpkin at Ichabod. And then the movie kind of ends saying, the next morning all that was found was Ichabod's hat and a smashed pumpkin, and Ichabod was never seen again, although some people think he did go off and get married to some woman in another town. But we all know that can't be true. What? Why couldn't that be true? Why is that your thing? And Brom ends up marrying Katrina. So whether or not he was the Headless Horseman or not, he lucked out there, because this girl who had no interest in him and hated him the whole movie, I guess after this other guy she dies, decides to settle. So good for her. And now Brom's going to be rich. So that's the movie. Some fun trivia that I have about this film in its relation to the Disney parks. The Headless Horseman himself can be seen during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, where he leads the parade. They actually have the Headless Horseman carrying his pumpkin on a live horse, trotting down the street to kind of be the precursor to the parade itself, which is really cool to see. I know in the past he used to kind of run down the pathways, but in recent years, I think for safety reasons, they've it seems as if they've slowed it down recently. That's what it appears to me, because he does a nice simple trot, which is still really cool. In the Magic Kingdom, you can find the Sleepy Hollow refreshments, which serves waffles and stuff. Classic horseman food. The building itself is designed to look like Sunnyside, which is the home of the author of Sleepy Hollow, Washington Irving. I don't know if this is a directly intentional connection, but the Sleepy Hollow refreshment stand is in Liberty Square. While the story of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow itself does not take place in the Revolutionary period, many other stories of the Headless Horseman claim that he's from the American Revolution, that he's a Hessian soldier who died, as I said earlier, because of a cannonball. So I don't know if that was just a happy accident, or if they planned it out oh yeah, the Headless Horseman's a revolutionary character, so it should go here. Either way, I think it works out. Also, during Halloween time, not only can you find him at the Halloween parties, but Fort Wilderness for the past couple years has been doing this Return to Sleepy Hollow event, where you can get pictures with the Headless Horseman and watch the movie inside their ranch surrounded by horses, or near the ranch, which is pretty cool, and they give snacks and whatever. But that's the only location I believe you can get a direct picture with the Headless Horseman himself, because otherwise you can only see him in a parade. And there's no Ichabod meet and greet character, there's no Brom, but how great would that be? Because no one would know who they are. I think that'd be hilarious. Who are you? I'm Brom Bones. Oh, okay. Unless you believe that the Headless Horseman is Brom Bones, in which case, yeah, there's a few meet and greets for him. And now it's a segment of the show where I make an attraction for this thing all by myself. So this is paired with The Wind in the Willows, which has its own dark ride over at Disneyland. It used to have one here as well. I think Sleepy Hollow would work well as a dark ride. You kind of have the beginning bit, you're going through the town, you have an animatronic Brom Bones pouring some nice ale into a cup for a horse or whatever he does, and have the dance, and then have a kind of faster chase at the end, where it's almost like Snow White's Scary Adventure, where everywhere you turn you see the Headless Horseman. I think that'd be really cool. And just like Wind and Willows, you end up dying. Another option for an attraction could be a fun hoop-de-doo style dinner show, where it's just a bunch of characters from this village doing song and dance about ghost stories and legends, and the Headless Horseman can almost have a through line throughout those stories, where it's all sort of connected to him, and then their kind of finale of the show is they do this song legend and acting it out of the Headless Horseman. I think it would almost even be fun if, as an element of the show, they had a Headless Horseman guy through on stage with them throughout the show. And then at the end, they're all right, Brom, good job. You can take off the horseman costume now. We got to do our bows. And then Brom comes out the other side. It's It's like, what are you guys talking about? I've been over here. And then, like, the curtains close and thunder claps, and I think that'd be, like, a fun little, like, dinner show that leaves you slightly traumatized, like this movie did. If I'm going to rate it, I would say it's a hidden treasure. The animation is very well done, especially on the Headless Horseman. I would say it's definitely of the time. It's definitely two guys chasing after this woman who has very little character herself other than being the girl. And the whole notion of two guys trying to win her over. So it's definitely a film of the times. But it has fun stuff. It has some funny slapstick. It's a bit confusing why every woman in town likes this guy that they clearly describe as a weird-looking guy. Maybe they care about his intellect, you know? I say it's kind of like Beauty and the Beast. It's the reverse Beauty and the Beast. It's everyone really likes him for his brain and the fact that he's a low-paid teacher, and they're just all really into that. Thank you all for joining me today. It's a new format. I hope you guys like it, because right now I don't have too much of a choice. I'm hoping to do a few more of these minisodes and then a few like regular episodes, either by myself or with Jaden. Yeah, so hopefully we can get her for one of those. Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, you can follow us at Into the Vault Podcast on Instagram. And if you want to leave a review of the show, it would help out. It would get more people to see it exists, and that'd be really cool. So write a review here on iTunes or wherever, and thank you all for joining me today. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to carve a pumpkin for myself in case I ever lose my head. I don't want just some rando carving my head for me, you know? I want to have it be something I like. Take care, guys.